All right. Now, this article right now that we're going to read is actually pretty interesting to me. I think there's been times, I think stress definitely is one of those times where it occurs in which there have been some feelings of which I feel like I'm very forgetful. I have conversations with people and I'm not one to have like a transcript in my mind about what was happening. I can give you the gist about what was happening or what happened or how it was said, but not a word for word. I've been around some scholars at Cheney University, and many of them can really tell you verbatim exactly what it is that was being said from the T, the context, and the vowel inflection, et cetera. That's not me, right? But to look at this right now, we're in our reading assignment in terms of cognition, and we go in and we talk about memory. Now, immediately after that, we get into a conversation about forgetfulness. Now, this is a different theory on forgetfulness. Does anybody remember in the reading, they talked about some sins of memory? That's a good one, right? Do you guys remember how many sins of memory and or the name of the theory that the name of the author of the theory that was responsible in presenting those sins of memory?
Daniel.
All right. You know what? I think you might be off a little bit. I don't have it in front of me. You said McDaniel or Daniel?
No, I said Daniel.
Daniel, I think you're close though. And I know where you're getting that from, right? Now, the reason why I remember this guy's name because he reminds me of the guy that played Star Trek, Bill Shatner. I think his name is, and I've said it for a long time, it's Shatner, right? And what he did is he proposed the 7 sins of memory, right? Now, if you look at these 7 aspects we're going to talk about today, they're not the same. And I say that because I want to make sure that if we're not 100% paying attention to what's going on, we might think, oh, the number 7, forgetfulness, we're talking about memory. Oh, it's the same. No. The 7 common causes of talking about today are not the same issues that we're talking about today. No offense, I just muted somebody because we were all getting some background information. All right, now, Kamal, I just muted you, but you have your hand raised. I'm not sure. You can unmute yourself. Let me know if you're trying to read or if you have a question.
Yeah, I had a question. So I took notes on RA 15, and
yes,
I learned that a researcher by the name of Daniel, I think it's Scatter, and
yes,
it stated that he believed that there are 7 sins of memory responsible.
All right, you're absolutely right. So I should have, when you said Daniel, again, it must be a delay. I got a little machine going on behind me, like the air conditioning. I thought you were saying Daniels was this person's last name. You're right. I don't attend the first names. Kamal, you might be one of the few people I know their first name up. So you're right. Daniel Shatner. You focus on their first name. I usually focus on the last name because of the way that we cite. So you're right. 7 sins of memory, right? But I want to enumerate that the sins of memory that we're talking about are very different from the common causes of forgetfulness that are written by this author that we're going to read today. All right, now I'm going to ask for some volunteers. As always, I want you guys to let me know if you're willing to read first.
I read.
All right, thank you so much, Jada. Now, if you can read up to that part, it might be looked at as 2 paragraphs. I apologize, but we'll elaborate on it.
All right. Memory slips are aggravating, frustrating, and sometimes worrisome. When they happen more than they should, they can trigger fears of looming dementia or Alzheimer's disease. But there are some treatable causes for forgetfulness. There are 6 common ones. Lack of sleep, not getting enough sleep is perhaps the greatest unappreciated cause of forgetfulness. Too little restful sleep can also lead to mood changes and anxiety, which in turn contribute to problems with memory.
All right.
I said contribute.
It's all right. We knew you were going. You know where you're going. And trust me,
yeah.
it's funny you because you raised your hand and you were talking in class, right? But there's a lot. You gave us 2 paragraphs, and I actually was ready to pull out one of those paragraphs just because there's so much that you said in there, right? Now, I mentioned before, I was my little introductory story. Memory slips are aggravating, frustrating, and sometimes worrisome, right? But when you have them, it creates some kind of fears. Does anybody know what dementia is? Now, you guys are on your laptops, probably in your iPhones right now, whatever. What is dementia? Does anybody know what dementia is or can share what that is?
Ain't that when you start to like forget names and things?
Yeah, it is about when you start to forget things. It's usually characterized just by old age. It's not like a disorder, it's not a mental illness, but it really is an aspect of like kind of forgetfulness. And some people experience this as they get older. Now, here's another one. This one's a little bit more loaded. Alzheimer's. Does anybody know what Alzheimer's is? Because I'll tell you, if you're only focusing on memory, there's no way to sit back and be able to tell the difference between a person who is suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's just has additional characteristics associated with it. I guess the question I'm
They
asking,
like on and off.
say again?
Sorry. Alzheimer's disease is like someone who, like forgetfulness too, like, but they like sometimes it can come back, but those are worse than dementia.
Exactly. And you know what? I think those disorders that there's been a lot of research on trying to sit back and try to reverse the effects of Alzheimer's. Now, that's usually more characteristic of having kind of like a mental disorder that develops and you can be diagnosed with that. Whereas dementia is usually associated with just, old age. One of the things that I'll tell you is that dementia, there's a saying that we use in psychology. If you don't use it, you will lose it, right? I often have a difficult time when people try to make jokes about elderly people. And the reason why, because when I first came to Cheney University, some of the most brilliant minds I've ever seen and interacted with are here. Like I'm brushing shoulders with doctor this, doctor that, et cetera, right? These are individuals who were older than me. Some actually, when I first got here, I think some of them were probably twice my age, right? Twice my age plus, but they were sharp. Honestly, at department meetings, in conversations, they were the sharpest needle in the, I don't say sharpest needle in the haystack, but they were the sharpest mind, right? So why is it that we have so much connotations between as you get older, you start to have dementia and you're not as sharp? And yet I'm brushing shoulders with people that are more than twice my age, older than my parents, but their mind is sharp. Their memory is sharp. Why do you guys think that occurs?
Like you said, they're constantly thinking in different ways.
Exactly. You know what? You're using it. You want to use those skills, right? And I will tell you, we use it like its memory is the only aspect in which it applies to, but it applies to everything. One of the things that actually is making me feel a little older is that when I first came to Cheney University, I think story about Cheney University, I've always sat back and said, we're trying to do what other institutions do with money without money. So we got to be hands-on. We can't pull in the grant or get funding from the president or the provost to make something happen. If we want to make something happen, we will do it, and we'll probably do it getting unpaid. Sometimes we might feel underappreciated, right? When I first came here, we had a very weak skeleton IT. IT is like information technology support faculty. So I would sit back and do everything that I wanted. I was pretty good downloading software. I was able to fix my computers that had any issues. Some of my colleagues would rely on me to teach them how to fix their software. However, as the years progressed to where you guys see right now, we have an extensive IT. Now I couldn't download an item or a program on my computer if I wanted to, because they block it. They block me access. Now, 5 or 6 years of me not being able to tinker and play with my workstation at work has now made it so I'm no longer comfortable with computers. It's actually embarrassing, right? I call IT and I'm just like the other faculty that I would kind of snicker at or laugh at. And that's because I haven't used those skills because IT has spoiled me. It's not that I'm really getting old, but it really is an aspect that you have to use these skill sets. You need to make sure that you are sharpening these skills or else you'll lose them. And depending on your work, depending on what you're doing, you want to try to keep your mind intellectually sharp. And if you keep yourself intellectually sharp, thinking about things, reading, you won't find that aspects of your memory will deteriorate, not from alone, but it may from some hereditary disorders like Alzheimer's that you can't fix from reading. All right, so the first number one reason is lack of sleep. And this is very relevant to all of you. How many people, you can raise your hand. I'm going to sit back and look and see how many people raise your hand. I look at participants. We got 16 people in the room right now. Raise your hand if you think you get 8 hours of sleep on average each night? Okay, we got somebody. All right. Now, I don't want to call somebody out or put them on blast. Okay, we got two people, two hands are up, right? Now we got an X. I'm thinking that X is saying that there's no way I get, okay, so we have three hands, right? Now that's 3 out of 16 people. Now, let me ask, I don't mean to call you out. You don't have to respond if you don't want to, but Jada, Maya, and Leon, let me ask you this. Do you guys live at home?
Yes.
Yes.
That's 2 out of 3 yeses. All right.
No.
You said no? Maya, you said no?
No, I said yes.
Oh, okay.
Nah, I said no.
Okay, so that's 2 out of 3 yeses are at home. And that's probably because, I know y'all want to act like you're big and bad, but mom and dad probably put that little bedtime on you. But that's actually very interesting. When you think about lack of sleep can really impact your memory. And here's the thing, lack of sleep can also impact motor functioning, consciousness, but lack of sleep is probably one of the first things that you actually start to notice. You may be walking around literally like the Walking Dead, right? And not being able to function. Now think about how detrimental that is if you were either in a physical classroom or you're logging on to a Zoom and you didn't get good sleep, right? Much of what I'm saying, possibly a percentage of what I've already said right now, is being lost. You're not able to retain it. You're not going to recall it. So that's one of the things that can definitely cause forgetfulness. And one of the things the reason why I have the reading assignment quizzes for all of you is to come face to face with many of you. And I've had a lot of conversations. Many of you guys have come face to face with, I thought my memory was good, I was sharp. But you'll sit back and you'll watch a video and you'll take the reading assignment quiz and you might get 1 or 3. I've been in the Zoom, I don't want to call your names out, but this semester I've been in Zooms with 5 people, right? And those 5 people are just like, Dr. Barnes, that was not in the video, that was not in the video. We'll get into the Zoom, we'll look at it. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly where it is because I remember recording these years ago, right? I was talking about how my memory is with these kind of events, but it's right there. And it's like, oh, yeah, you're right, right? So you really got to sit back and make sure. Now, I'm not saying these people were sleepy when they were actually going through, but as attentive, right? So we are coming face to face with how our memory is not perfect. And getting a good night's sleep is very, very important. I think that you guys may not realize how tired you are until you're in an environment where things just kind of slow down. But lack of sleep, definitely number 1. All right, I want to make sure these chat comments are not something, I see your comments, definitely know for a fact, it's excellent, right? Let's go down to the next one in terms of like some 7 causes of forgetfulness. We should now be on medications. And is there anybody who's willing to read? And I need to sit back and start writing down names because again, we have, how many people are in the class today? 16, may have lost somebody, but I always want to make sure we have a little bit of diverse participation in class. So I'm going to start writing down the names of people who've presented. All right, we got Michael. All right, and I'll continue to do so. All right, but again, all right, you'll read it. Thank you, Maya.
Where are we starting at?
I got it highlighted a little bit. You can't see it. Medications.
Oh, tranquilizers, antidepressants.
Now hold on.
Oh wait.
I can cut you off. I want to help you with that, right? And then I say this before because again, this is Cheney University. I feel like it's a steel sharpening steel, right? The word that you mispronounced right there is tranquilizers.
Oh.
Right. Trust me, it doesn't look like it should sound, or I would probably say you can spell it differently. But that word is tranquilizers, and then I'll help you out. The next word is antidepressants. That's one of those words that me being a psychology professor, seeing it each year, I know and I'm familiar with it. But those 2 words first is tranquilizers and antidepressants.
Okay. Some blood pressure drugs and other medications can affect memory, usually by causing sedation or confusion. That can make it difficult to pay close attention to new things. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist if you suspect that a new medication is taking the edge of your memory. As shown in the table below, alternatives are usually available.
Okay, now you're absolutely right. Now, before I get into this, I don't want anybody in this class, right? I'm trying to create a safe space in which when we're reading, we can be comfortable asking questions, right? Now, this is one way to get some participation as well, right? What are some words on here that we feel like we don't know, right? Just take off your mic, let me know. I'll sit back and highlight them.
Tranquilize, that word that I got wrong.
The word that you got wrong, is this,
It's the T word, the trig.
oh, tranquilizers, okay. All right, anything else? Anybody else? The only thing I ask is this, let me know who your name is. Say, my name is blah, 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 and the word I didn't know is that. Telling me tranquilizer is the only word that y'all didn't know? Then I'm gonna challenge y'all. What does sedation mean?
When you give it to them, make them go to sleep.
Absolutely. Sedation. It's one of those things that you do. Sedated is when, usually it's influenced by medication. It's not like if I'm tired, right? But if a medication is giving you and it promotes sedation, it's really putting you to sleep. Now, you know, I just sent the email the other day. It may be not your time, but we actually had a drug overdose with the rapper DMX, and he overdosed and he wasn't breathing. But you have to sit back and realize how drug overdoses occur. These drugs are tranquilizers. They calm you down, right? Usually when people overdose on medicine, what happens is their heart decreases, their lung rate of breathing decreases, and they go to sleep and they just never wake up, right? That is sedation, and it's usually a drug-induced relaxation or shutting down of the body. All right, some blood pressure medications. All right, tranquilizers. Tranquilizers are also some type of medications that are kind of short time sedative medicines, right? They kind of calm you down. Usually people who actually have, I think they're called positive symptoms. I'm actually going to put this in the chat. Positive symptoms is one of those things that's going to be good. Positive symptoms are symptoms that add to everyday functioning, that impede mental health. Now, what I mean by that is this. You might sit back and see who you are. There's two ways that we can sit back and define issues of mental illness. Let me press send, so it's in the chat for you guys to see, but I'm also going to put it on the screen for those who just like to look at it. All right, there we go. All right, positive symptoms are symptoms that add to everyday functioning that impede mental health. Now, what I mean by that, everybody right now, I'm assuming, is probably in good health. If you are suffering from a mental disorder and they would say that you have a positive symptom, essentially, we're not going to take away from your everyday functioning. We're going to add something to it. Now, what we're adding is something that's unhealthy. Like you might perceive things that aren't there. You'll have delusions. You'll start seeing things. You'll start hearing voices, right? So think about it. You're behaving the way that you would do normally. But in addition to that, you have a positive symptom that's impacting your mental health. You might be hearing voices. You might be seeing things, right? That's what we would call as a positive symptom. So your everyday functioning is in play, but yet we're adding situations for it. Tranquilizers are often used to remove positive symptoms because tranquilizers, again, if they're given in the wrong dose, they definitely can make you go to sleep. But they're kind of referred to as kind of soft sedation medications that will not put you to sleep, but they will kind of negate these positive symptoms. So if you're hearing voices, if we give you a tranquilizer, you may no longer hear those voices. We don't want to get you to the point where you're lethargic, you can't get up out of bed, you're not motivated. We just want to get rid of those positive symptoms. So positive symptoms are symptoms that add to everyday functioning that impede mental health. And then on the flip side of that is the fact that tranquilizers are medications that oftentimes are used to eliminate these positive symptoms, but then also maintain that day-to-day functioning that you need to effectively go throughout your day. All right, now I'm not really going to go into these drugs, but they talk about a couple of drugs that you might be taking that might impact your everyday functioning. One is Paxil, Tagamet, Ditropan. These are like kind of the pharmaceutical names, but I don't necessarily want to get into that. I want to get into the 7 common factors because all of those things fit underneath of what we're talking about when it comes down to medication, the umbrella term. All right, now needs another person to participate. Another thing that might impact forgetfulness is an underactive thyroid. Who's willing to read that?
I can read.
All right, thank you, Leon. Go ahead.
A faltering thyroid can affect memory as well as disturb sleep and cause.
Uh-oh, did we lose you?
Oh, no, I'm right here. Both of which can be causes of forgetfulness. A simple blood test can tell if your thyroid is doing its job properly.
Exactly. Now, does anybody know where the thyroid gland is? You know, I'm gonna give you all a minute of time to look it up. Where is your thyroid gland? It's actually a dysfunctioning thyroid. It's very common with a lot of disorders.
It's in your throat or your neck.
All right, now I think I heard you, Michael. Can you speak up?
It's in your throat, like your neck.
It's in your neck and your throat area. Exactly. And I'll tell you, yeah, it's one of those situations. I actually had to talk to my children, I think, when we saw an individual who had an inflamed thyroid gland. You know, children don't always know, especially when they were younger, they don't know to sit back and not stare at people. And I think we were at AI DuPont Hospital in Delaware. And I think a child had a swollen thyroid gland. Now you can imagine they're probably feeling uncomfortable from the swelling on their skin. And my kids are just staring. Now, granted, the kid, I think, who they were staring at didn't see them, and maybe they would have looked away. But I was kind of embarrassed. Like, look, guys, you need to realize if people are going through something, you should not feel comfortable staring. Honestly, it should be one of those things that make you count your blessings and realize like how fortunate you are to have your health, as opposed to staring at an individual to making them feel uncomfortable. But Michael's absolutely right. A thyroid gland, especially when it's underactive, it's in your throat and your neck area. And if it's not functioning appropriately, it can definitely affect memory. You know, I actually thought I was going to share this with you, but it also can impact, disturb your sleep. It can have issues with depression. And both of those aspects can, in themselves, yeah, we're going to say that a little bit later, both of them in themselves can impact depression. Now, I'll tell you, you know, it's actually really sad. I was talking to my kids just the other day, and they were alluding to the COVID shot, right? And actually, it wasn't just my kids. I think my kids really were repeating something. They'd probably seen a meme on the internet or something, right? But they were just like, yeah, I don't want to get the COVID shot because I might get a head growing out of my arm, right? But they said this Easter weekend around my family. Let me tell you, I almost felt like I had to pull out the doctor chair and be a psychological member to sit back and console my family, because you could have heard the ignorance that was depicted in that room about their opinions on COVID. And I'll be honest, my family's kind of obese, and obesity is like one of the number one issues other than underlying health conditions, right? Obesity is one of those things that you really can change. I mean, you can go out and work out and improve your health. An underlying health condition, I don't know if, depending on who you talk to, they might say obesity runs in families, underlying health condition. My viewpoint is that's something you can change, and I wouldn't consider under that category. But with my family being kind of over obese and overweight, you know, they are probably more susceptible to COVID. But to hear them sit back and talk about their views of dealing with the COVID vaccine, but then also coupled with the whole, I don't want to stay home, I can't wait to get back out and to do our daily activities, it was really, really alarming. And I'll tell you, they sat back, which is like, of course, I'm the wrong person to tell them because I'm just their brother or sister or their son. But it really was a message that needed to be heard about, like, what are you guys doing? Because I don't want my family to be a part of the problem, right? And not even just being a part of the problem. I don't want them to be impacted that way. So an underactive thyroid is very important. Now, the reason why I got off on this tangent was just talking about blood tests. Going to the doctors and getting a blood test. It's one of the things they actually run numbers for. I forget the statistic. I'm probably going to say about 70% of thyroid disorders they really believe if you go to your doctor and you request a screening on your blood, you can actually prevent later issues that can occur. So I will tell you, we need to open up a little bit more. I know many of us probably have insurance, right? Even when we get a job and we're on our own and we get insurance, sometimes our beliefs about healthcare and asking questions and advocating for our own future health and what's called preventative medicine, we don't always get into that. I would encourage you, I would say, not necessarily on a yearly basis, but every 5 years, do health screening, to run blood tests, because like, there's an alarming number of disorders that you can develop later that in the event that you were aware of this or did a simple blood test, you could have caught this at early stages, at a very early stage. All right, so we got fodder for that. All right, the only other thing I'm going to say is, all right, next. All right, who wants to read this one? This might be fun.
I can read it.
All right, Sydney, thank you. Go ahead.
Drinking too much alcohol can interfere with short-term memory, even after the effects of alcohol have worn off. Although too much varies from person to person, it's best to stick with the recommendation of no more than 2 drinks for men and no more than 1 drink a day for women. 1 drink is generally defined as 1.5 ounces, 1 shot glass of 80 proof spirits, 5 ounces of wine, or 12 ounces of beer.
All right, check that out. Look at what they're saying, right? Now I'm going to sit back and focus on this, right? I don't need anyone to sit back and share their head. All of you guys are college age students, and I doubt, unless you raise your hand and put it in the chat, you can put your name in the chat if you are 20. Actually, don't do that. If you put your name in the chat saying that you're 21 and you can drink, you might make a whole new bunch of friends. Y'all will blame it on me, right? But chances are, when it comes down to the daily dosage that's recommended for drinking, they say 1 drink is generally defined as 1 shot glass, right? That's about 80 proof spirit. If you increase the proof, that's going to be a little bit more. 5 ounces of wine, that is not a lot. You sit back and think that a 12-ounce can of soda is consistent with 12 ounces of a beer. So 5 ounces of wine, it's not even a full amount comparable with the bottle. And then also 12 ounces of beer. So let's sit back and think about that. They're recommending that you drink no more than 1 shot glass, 5 ounces of wine, or 12 ounces of beer a day. Is that what we're reading from here? Trick question. Pay attention. What is the daily dose that they're recommending?
2 for men, 1 for women.
Exactly. So it depends on who you are, right? So if you're a woman, right, they're recommending that you might be able to tolerate 1 shot glass if you're taking a shot, depending on who you are. I don't know what you're interested in. Maybe a glass of wine, 5-ounce glass, or 12 ounces of beer if you're a woman, right? Now, if you're a male, because at certain age, their metabolism is a little bit different, they recommend 2 drinks per day, right? So a male can have 2 shots each day, 10 ounces of wine, and get that second glass, right? And then 2 beers, right? Now, you got to sit back and think about this. People don't usually drink with these habits, right? Actually, when you think about in college, chances are you guys probably can go 3 or 4 days without drinking at all. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you might make up for all the beers that you probably could have drank on the other days if they have this little rate. But this right here is what the suggestion is. And people don't often do that, especially in American culture. I think unless people have alcoholic tendencies, they don't typically drink every single day. But drinking can be impactful. Why? Because it does interfere with your short-term memory. And it's not just while you're drunk. Everybody can sit back and think about that. But even after the effects of alcohol have worn off, it's not even about having short-term memory of what happened last night, right? Like, oh, that was funny, I missed it, I blacked out. No, I'm talking about you're sobered up the next day. I'm talking about your hangover is done the next day. And you still have after effects of memory of alcohol impacting your short-term memory. Now they do give you credit. I don't want to scare you to sit back and say, don't ever drink again. It does vary person to person. One of the issues definitely that impacts you, how your memory is impacted by alcohol, is whether or not you have alcoholism in your family. And that's actually going to be some fodder right here to add for the quiz.
When is the quiz?
Oh, the exam, you know what? I don't know the answer. So let me go figure this out. I'm going to leave this page real quick and go look at the syllabus. I don't mind if I leave this. That's actually a good question. I want to make sure you guys have the answer to that. All right, exam. We'll go to the syllabus. We just had it, so I don't think it's right on the heels of us, but it'd be great to plan it for us. Our next exam is going to be April 20th. Now, I hope you guys know by now. It's really funny because I always get emails that make me wonder. April 20th is a Tuesday, which means that is the first time that you can take the exam. Now, I think you guys have seen this, right? I actually had somebody, it's funny you said this and I almost feel like you didn't realize that you were telling me you was trying to cheat and you were surprised you couldn't, right? But you can take your first attempt of exam 3 on April 20th. It'll be open during class time, 2:30, 3:45. As long as you start before 3:45, you'll have the appropriate time to finish the exam. That's how you can get your first attempt. Your second attempt on taking the exam, if you took the first, will be on that Thursday. So that's April 20th. Right now, I say it's optional. So you can either take your second attempt or if you missed it the first time. I tell you, I am impressed by when I see people taking the exam the second time, how their grades have have improved. So please continue to do so. I really believe that test anxiety is one of the things that really impacts you guys from showing yourself, because really what I do as an instructor is I'm trying to get an assessment of your intellectual ability. Now, poor test taking strategies and test anxiety, those things impact with me trying to get a good measure of how dedicated you are to this course. And when I see the grade increase from the first time to the second, right? And since the questions are oftentimes different, it's not that, oh, I remember it and I'm doing better. It really is like, look, you know what? I got a 72. I'm not happy with a 72, right? But I'm going to take it a second time. And I know if I take a 72, I'm good with my grade. And I think that relaxation really results in people to improve their grade. It also might benefit from people going back and learning, but I'm one that supports that. I think that the world in academia does not find ways to support learning from your mistakes enough. So I definitely do that. Keep doing it. So April 20th, April the 22nd will be the second time. Right now we are on April 6th. So we're going to be back here again, reading another article. And then the week after that's when we'll have the exam. And the exam will be on, it's another 5-chapter exam. It'll be reading assignment 11, 12. There is no 13. Reading assignment 14, 15, and 16. And 14, 15, and 16 are on cognition, memory, and then forgetfulness, which is what we're kind of doing right now. All right, so that's kind of a long way to get to your answer, but I'm glad you asked that question. I want to make sure we have it. When it comes down to alcohol, did I finish my points on alcohol? I believe I did. Yeah, and if I didn't, we definitely went off topic, so we're going to move on from that. Let's see. Okay. All right, the next thing we're reading is stress and anxiety. I'm going to highlight this as opposed to doing it and then ask for another participant to read. Again, I'm looking for some diversity. We got so many people on here and some of you guys have not talked. So again, please consider unmuting yourself and reading for us.
May I read?
Yes, you can, but you know what though? I might try to sit back and hold off for a little bit, right? So let me save you for something. I might give you something extra to read, come out, right? Unless people get scared. So let's give it like a little 30 seconds of uncomfortableness to see if there's anybody else who can is willing to read. Is there anybody else? Again, we don't have much more to read. I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to read.
I'll read.
All right. Okay. All right. So I think the name I saw first was Savannah. Can you read for us?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Wait, where am I reading it?
See the blue, stress and anxiety.
Okay, I figured it was it. All right, so stress and anxiety. Okay, boom. Anything that makes it harder to concentrate and lock in new information and skills can lead to memory problems. Stress and anxiety fill the bill. Both could interfere with attention and block the formation of new memories or the retrieval of old ones. Great depression or no?
No. You stop right there. That's actually perfect. Now,
right.
Here's the issue. This is going back to making sure that you guys retain something from the reading assignment. They're actually, and actually, no, I'm not even going to do that because I'm not even sure if it's in here. I'm going to type in memory, interference theory. All right, so I'm going to put this up on the screen. I'm going to blow this up. This is something I want to introduce. Interference theory. All right, now Kamal, right? You wanted to read, so can you read this definition that we have up here on the screen?
Yes. The interference theory is a theory regarding human memory. Interference occurs in learning. The notion is that memories encoded in long-term memory are forgotten and cannot be retrieved into short-term memory because either memory interferes or hampers the other.
All right. Now, I want you to sit back and think about your memory. In order to understand this interference theory, you have to sit back and think of it as kind of impacting one another, right? Have you guys ever been in a situation in which you heard something so profound that it kind of went against everything that you've already known? And you know what? I actually want to see if there's anybody willing to share that. When is there something that you heard something, right? And it's so profound that you're just like, wait, that can't be true. Like, so it takes a while for you to kind of sink this in. Who's had that experience and is willing to tell us of something about that? A time when you heard something, maybe in a classroom or in the news, that was so profound, right? You're just like, wait, that can't be true. Oh, okay. You guys telling me that you guys are all sponges? You guys telling me that I haven't blown your mind in this class? I'm a little upset. Now, an example that I'm going to tell you an example, and y'all might make fun of me. That's all good. I'm going to tell you. When I was married, I actually had a situation in which I forget the name of this movie. It might have been like The Prince of Persia or something. That's like a video game. But there was a scene in which it was from the Bible, and you guys may remember this, in which Jesus made like the river red of wine, right? Now, the funny thing about this is when the river turned red from putting wine in it, I just kind of said it out loud in front of everybody. I was like, oh, that's the Red Sea, right? Because the wine made the river red and it turned red. And I was just like, I'm Bible stories. I'm like, it's the Red Sea. Let me tell you, my family to this day has not let me forget the fact that here I am, a grown man in graduate school at the time, I believe, right? Or just got out of it. And when I saw that the water turned into wine, I thought that was the Red Sea because I thought the Red Sea was actually red as opposed to a sea that's still on the map, that still exists in this world, that's not actually filled with red water, right? Now, let me tell you, I remember being in that situation. I was experiencing literally very profound interference, right? Because let's look at what this theory is saying. It's saying about human memory. How does memory work, right? It's a theory, and it argues that when information is trying to be encoded in LTM, which is long-term memory, right? The reason why they may not be recalled or imported into your long-term memory is because of either existing memories interfere or the fact that the memories that you had before. So my belief of the Red Sea being red and biblical, when I'm seeing this and they're telling me like, wait, the Red Sea is not red. That's like years of Bible school, years of understanding that's making me have to go through this like dissonance for me to sit back and be like, wait, this does not make sense, right? It was difficult for me to encode that. That's interference theory. It's a situation in which Either old memories may prevent you from learning new information, or sometimes new information may not sit well or be fully encoded because it competes with old information. Interference theory is really that. And it's one of the reasons why they can say the issues that we experience. Stress and anxiety talk just about that. Anything that makes it harder to concentrate and lock in new information, right? Interference. And stress and anxiety can actually be caused when you're trying to assimilate information from new information within the classroom. It kind of differs from what you've heard. One of the best examples I'll say, in addition to that Red Sea example, is really when I think I was in college and I realized that my psychology professor outright lied to me about a concept. So here I am in my college psychology course and asking, I think, the same question, the topic came up, and it was difficult for me to grasp and believe what he told me. Why? Because I had already learned something. Now, what I ended up learning in the past in high school was wrong. I think my teacher was just uncomfortable saying, I don't know, and just made up a story. But that causes stress, tension, and a little bit of anxiety. All right. So stress and anxiety definitely fit the bill, leaving the memory problems. It both can interfere with attention and block the formation of new memories or the retrieval of old ones. So this interference theory, one of the modern takes on interference theory is the fact that anxiety can cause it. And that's why I talk about test anxiety in this class. Because if you're sitting back here, I forgot who sat back and asked about the exam, but if you're worried about the exam so many times, that's why it might be difficult for you to recall information. I know everybody in this room has probably been in a situation in which they know the answer to this multiple choice question, but they can't just recall it. And it's not until you leave that testing environment that you get up and you walk away from the exam, you already handed in, that your stress and anxiety level decreases. Now, all of a sudden, your memory is functioning appropriately. The pressure is off. And then you come back, I knew that answer. There's a girl here now. I swear it's like a habit of hers. She literally will take an exam. She'll be the last one to take the exam. And then when class is over, she'll come back and interrupt me when I was teaching the last class. Like I'm teaching my next class afterwards, right? And she'll come back in almost wanting to take the exam because she now remembers the answer to number 7, which she couldn't do when she was in class. And that's because stress and anxiety does impact those things. And you want to sit back and realize it. I think I mentioned you guys so much. One of the most important things I think is important for you while we talked about what stress can do to your body is to sit back and do physical check-ins. You know, I just honestly, you probably can't see it, but I just now realized that this lecture must be anxiety provoking for me. The reason why, because I just relaxed my shoulders. And when I relaxed my shoulders, I just realized that my muscles was extremely tense, right? Now, many of you probably couldn't see or tell from the outside that I must be nervous teaching this lecture, but it was causing stress and a little bit of anxiety. And as a result of that, it really feels like I was working out, right? Some of us hold our stress and anxiety through our bodies. Now, I want to hear from some of you guys. Again, I need to hear participation. I'm going to take down names and I see them. But what are some of the things that you guys deal with that causes stress and anxiety that you guys are willing to share? Don't share anything that you're not comfortable with. But what are some of the things that are stressful and anxiety that you have? And I'm going to sit back and rebuttal with every contribution that I hear, because I'll be asking you whether or not you think that during those times, whether you would have experienced some type of memory impairment. Let's hear from the group. It's a great opportunity to participate.
I have something.
Okay, go ahead.
Loud noises, whether they're from environment or like a person.
Now you know what? I'm going to ask you the question just because that's what I said I was going to do, right? But we definitely understand that loud noises from the environment work. We actually have a new neighbor across from my home, and honestly, I wish I could hire him, right? Because he's always hammering or knocking. Well, the weather's getting warm, and I don't think I realized how much I appreciated being cold because he wasn't working in his garage all hours of night. He's a night owl. Last night, starting around 12:30, this man is hammering, sawing outside, right? I couldn't sleep. I woke up and was trying to like read or something, attend to an email. And I'm like angry. I'm angry at the person on the other side of the email, not because the other person on the other side of the email was doing anything that was upsetting me, but because I couldn't focus. I couldn't recall the appropriate words that I wanted to say because of that loud noise or that distraction. So I kind of took you off the hint with that, Sinetra. What else? What are some other things that cause stress and anxiety? Right now, we're 1 for 1, but that stress and anxiety definitely impacts our ability to be forgetful.
Work.
What'd you say, Jada?
Work,
Work? Ooh.
homework, and stuff like that.
Okay, homework. Now, you know what? I like how you said work, right? But I'm going to go with homework. That's your final answer, right? So, do you oftentimes feel that when you're doing homework, right, it's difficult for you to concentrate or to recall what you might have learned or what you have read earlier when performing it? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Now, here's the issue that I would say, and I'll tell you this, it's kind of words of advice. I hope that won't be the case with work, right? So not necessarily your homework, but with work. I'm fortunate enough to absolutely love my job, right? And I would hate for my work here to be so stressful that I'm unable to function, especially since my productivity in academia is really based on it. But there are individuals who are difficult at work and they're not at their best. Now, their jobs might not rely on their mental cognitive prowess when they're at work, so they can get away with it. You know what I mean? Like a person at Heckinger's, they got to sit back and not Heckinger's. Y'all probably don't even know what Heckinger's is. That's embarrassing, right? But a person's working at Home Depot or whatever, if that's your career, like being stressed and anxiety experiencing at that place, it's not going to impact. You got to know where like plumbing is, what aisle it is. Whereas trying to sit back and solve problems in a stressful anxiety state would not be good. You really want to make sure that you can enjoy your job because then you can bring your best to it. Many people I speak to who love their jobs are individuals who enjoy it. It's not stressful and they can separate what is stressful about their job from what they love. Okay, you know what? If there's another person, again, we're getting towards the end, so I will give somebody else an opportunity. What's some of the things that you deal with, stress or anxiety, right? And then I'll follow up with whether or not that's something that you think impedes your memory, forgetfulness, or cognitive functioning.
I was going to say being in unfamiliar environments.
Being in an unfamiliar environment. Yes. You know what? I'll tell you, you know, like you think about escape rooms, you know, it's really funny. I can't imagine how people love having fun being in escape rooms, right? Because it's like it's unfamiliar, you're not familiar with certain things, and yet causing all that anxiety, right? Of being in an escape room, a timer, trying to win. Some people love that. They love that challenge of trying to solve things in riddles. That's the last thing I'm able to do. Sit back and cause. I could sit back and I remember one time I was in an escape room. I was reading the riddle and I didn't even realize that it rhymed, right? And that's just because of the stress and the anxiety. So my memory and cognition was not functioning. But again, I want to hear from you, Kamal. When you're in an unfamiliar environment, right, that you're not familiar with, do you feel like it impacts your memory, forgetfulness, or cognitive functioning?
Sometimes it may impact my memory. I may forget certain things and become absent-minded.
Exactly. And you know what? That's kind of things that we want to sit back and realize. We have to be reflective on ourselves, right? Sometimes you got to sit back and realize if these things are stressful, anxiety, it might not be an appropriate place for us to try to learn. This is a good activity. I appreciate that. All right, so screen sharing has been shared. Pause. All right. Last but not least, let's do depression. And again, this was hinted at earlier. Who is willing to read the next paragraph for us, which is highlighted in blue, which is depression? Uh-oh, we got 3 people with their hand raised up. Okay, let me see. So we got, you know what though? No disrespect to people, but those 3 hands that are up, I'm hoping they were up from before, because those are people who've already spoken. I'm really going to challenge us. Let's get out of here. Let's unmute our mics. We need to give everybody credit. Who is someone who's willing to read that has not spoken yet? And you know what? I think Paris, you might be an example. I think you were competing with yeah, you were a candidate to read with Savannah, and I went back to you. Are you willing to read?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Paris.
Common signs of depression include stifling. What's that word?
Stifling sadness.
Stifling sadness, lack of drive, and lessing a pleasure in things you ordinarily enjoy. I'm sorry. Forgetfulness can also be a sign of depression or consequence of it. If memory lapse.
No, hold on. No, thank you for reading, Paris. We're gonna save for somebody else. All right. Now, I want to make sure that we get this right. Because again, I always say this, reading is not about getting to the period, right? I want to make sure we understand what we're saying. What do you guys think? Who can tell me? And again, I'm promoting these opportunities for others who might not want to read, but you can just sit back and talk off a tangent, right? Stifling sadness. What does that phrase mean to you? If someone to say, I have a stifling sadness, what does that mean?
What does stifling mean?
And you know, that's another great question. And you know what? This is what I tell this. Now, you guys aren't in my research methods class, but what I usually do, and my kids get sick of me doing it, right? They ask me a question. Sometimes I know the definition, but if I don't know the definition, I got this habit built up with them. I'll be like, research it, look it up. You guys got Google, ask Siri, right? Stifling. Now, you know what? This is a little easier, right? Is there anybody who's willing to read this definition of it? And you know what? Stinny, I see your hand up. If your hand's up wanting to read, I think it's a perfect opportunity for you to jump in.
No, I just.
All right, okay, so you're not anybody then. It's up for grabs. Who wants to read this?
I'll read it.
All right, go ahead. Thank you.
Started very hot, right?
Yep.
Very hot and causing difficulties in breathing, suffocating.
An example of that would be like stifling heat.
Stifling heat. Making one feel constrained or I can't say it. Oh, oppressed.
Oppressed. And let me tell you that's actually one of these buzzwords that I kind of laugh at nowadays. People talk about like, you know, I've been oppressed. It's just one of those buzzwords coming up with the issues that we feel with social justice in America today. Now, here's the issue. A little bit of critical thinking on our part. Guys, there's two definitions. These definitions are different. When it comes down to stifling sadness, right? Which definition on the board do we believe is applicable to our sentence? The first.
Is it two?
Second. Yep, Kamal, you did it. Honestly, I was ready to sit back and put it in chat and allow people to have a little a toll competition in chat, but you're right. Let's look at what it says for number two. It says stifling can be defined as making one feel constrained, right? Or oppressed, right? So constraint means that many people argue that they are constrained to the bed. Many people are constrained to not be motivated. Many people that have depression, they will sit back and say like, look, I don't even have the motivation to get up out of bed today, right? So the sadness that they're experiencing is so overwhelming that it makes it so that they're constrained. They oftentimes might be stuck in their own rut. A phrase I've always heard is like kind of having like a downward spiral, right? So it's like you're sad and you're so stifled by this that you're just being sadder and sadder and your thought processes are making you sadder and sadder. So a stifling sadness is really something that's confined. It's pretty much immersed you and there's no getting out of it. That's what stifling means, right? So stifling sadness is one that makes a person feel like they're constrained. There's nothing you can do, right, to get out of this sadness. And that's one of the main reasons why when it comes to depression, they don't just sit back. If you go to a therapist, right, a good therapist, they're not going to be like, hey, look outside, it's bright, it's sunny. They're not going to tell you that. They might give you medication to deal with that stifling sadness. After they give you the medication and get rid of that stifling feeling that you have, then going outside, talking to your friends, enjoying the weather, vacationing, planning. Those things might be able to keep you into the day-to-day functioning and ups and downs that many of us go through. But to get you out of that initial depressive state, you might need some depression, followed along with, changing your life habits and then therapy if needed. All right, so let's go back to the article. Now we know what stifling means, right? Now, here's the issue. I want to drill this point in, right? No disrespect, but again, as a result of us learning this new definition, right? I think this first sentence, which I'm going to sit back and draw right here, it can be read again a second time. So let's sit back there and make the most out of this. Who's willing to read between these two arrows a second time, putting a little bit of emphasis on stifling, because now we all understand it. Uh-oh. We don't have any volunteers? If we don't have any volunteers, that means everybody in the classroom has read, and there isn't anybody who doesn't know and wants to participate. And I know that's not true. I don't want to call on people, but we definitely, I see some names. I'm going to call you out. You got any volunteers to read that one sentence? That's an easy. You get to contribute, and it's only one sentence. All right, it keeps saying 4 people raising their hand. Is anyone raising their hand that's trying to talk? All right, raising your hand and not willing to read, or you raising your hand because you want to read?
Yes, I wanted to read. Are you talking to me?
No, I was saying Kavan, but go ahead, Kavan. I'm not going to start you. You can go ahead.
Now that person can read if they want to read. It's okay.
No, definitely go do your thing. We're not going to wait forever.
Depression. Common signs of depression include a stifling sadness, lack of drive, and lessening of pleasure in things you ordinarily enjoy.
All right. Now, I want to focus now, as a result of me knowing what this is, on the second part of the sentence. This is one of the things that's kind of the beauty of hindsight. But when people are experiencing depression, one of the things they often do is they give away things that have always been valuable to them. Right? Now, the reason why I say it's the beauty of hindsight is because, imagine a good friend of yours gives you something that they valued, right? They know they love, and they just give it to you. They haven't heard from them in a little while. They want to give it to you. And then a week or two later, you find out that they committed suicide, right? Or they took their life, or they were depressed. You can sit back and realize, like, wow, that was almost a warning sign. And it's not a warning sign as opposed to, I'm giving it to you to let you know what I'm about to do. But that's what's characterized by depression. It's so stifling, right? You're so sad. There's no motivation. You don't even have interest. Like the lack of drive, you don't even have interest in the things that you used to have interest in. And one of the aspects of that is giving away things that used to be very important to you, which is really unfortunate. But I think I just want to sit back and share this right now, especially on the heels of Mental Health Awareness Week, which is next week, right? To sit back and let you guys know that I want to make sure that we don't think about depression as something that we can shake our friends out of. Many times, you guys are often the first line of defense of an individual. If you have an individual on this campus that does not leave their room, that only comes out to eat and doesn't really engage in fun activities, now granted, they might not be your friend. They might not like you, right? Just to look at it, the fact that they didn't come out and hang out with me, Dr. Barnes, I think she's depressed, right? But an individual who is staying alone to themselves, these are the kind of warning signs that we overlook, that we often overlook. You need to look at our friends, our family members to find out, look, what brings you joy, right? If it's absolutely nothing, then you might need to be a little concerned. But it's really funny. I get a lot of students telling me, Dr. Barnes, I never leave my room. Now, you know what, with COVID, that's tough. Because actually, if you don't leave your room on campus, that might be smart. You might be scared of people outside. As soon as you go outside your room to go do your laundry, people not even wearing their masks. That might make sense right now. But individuals that are your friends, that hang out with you, all of a sudden, they lose pleasure in the things they normally do. they don't want to hang out anymore. That's the type of depression. And I want to make sure that people don't look at this as, man, just get over it. You know, let's just get out, let's go drink, let's go party. It's something that you can just will yourself out of. Many times you'll need medication for the onset, therapy, and then those kind of behavior changes can be done to kind of prolong future onset that might occur later in your life. But the medication is needed. All right, we are towards the end, right? But we got one last paragraph. Now, I've been keeping track of everybody who's talking. Not going to call people out, but again, we are looking for 100% participation. So with this last paragraph, I'm going to give, you know, I am going to call y'all out. Y'all are just going to be mad at me, right? Right. There's 3 people I think I want to hear from, right? I want to hear from Dear. Maybe that person took off. Isaiah. And I also want to hear from Kavan, if you guys can, to finish this off. Putting some pressure on you. There's no reason to be in here, not really being here. Either one of you guys willing to read. That'd be Cordier or Kavan Stick. All right. You know what? Honestly, Isaiah, I was just about to make fun of you. I thought you left the Zoom. I heard the little Zoom button ring. I thought you. Go ahead, Isaiah.
What paragraph?
What do we know? All right. We are on the last paragraph right here. You know what? Because I want to share the love a little bit. We got 2 people, right? So Isaiah, you can go first. Just read the first sentence. And then we follow up with Kavan and read that last sentence. And yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it from everybody.
If memory lapse are bugging you, it's worth a conversation with your doctor to see if any reversible causes are at the root of the problem.
All right. I'm sorry. Now, hold on. All right. So we're going to come back to you later, Kavan, right? Now, let me ask y'all this. Like, y'all, your cameras aren't on, so there's no reason of doing it. But I want y'all to do me a favor and put a 1 in the chat, right? Oh, no, don't put a 1 in the chat. I want you to rate your level of comfortableness, right? Going to your doctor, right? And saying something like, you know what, doc, it's nothing serious, but I'm thinking I'm having some memory issues. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, oh, I would ask my doctor that, no problem. I think he likes me. He would want to hear from me. To 1 being like, I think I should talk to my doctor with only serious issues. I want you guys to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable you are sharing something like that with your doctor. All right, so we got about 15 people here, should be about 14 responses. Okay, nice little range, right? Excellent, excellent. I like that.
Can you repeat what you said?
All right, the question I asked is this. The sentence that we read from Isaiah is talking about memory lapses are bugging you, right? The one thing you can do is talk to your doctor. The question I asked, I want you to rate on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being, I wouldn't feel comfortable talking to my doctor about that. 10 being, yes, he's my doctor. Of course, I tell him this. How comfortable are you on a scale of 1 to 10 to talk to your doctor about, I think I might have some memory issues. I'm worried about it. All right. Now, you know what? I'll tell you, I wish, and let me tell you, this is one of the things I can do. I know you guys have probably heard this. African Americans, we are not trusting of healthcare professionals, right? But let me tell you this. I will tell you, I will be more happy with the change that occurs in you. You guys understand your importance of advocating yourself when it comes to mental health and your physical health, that you feel as if your voice is important and you can talk to your doctor more so than learning most of what you're learning in this class. It is really one of those statistics that really plagues us. And I argue that the educated African American or the educated minority should not have these fears. I was just watching recently, I think it was Dr. Oz. I don't really watch him that often, but he was watching a show that was talking about how there's so many people trying to do interventions in the African American community because we are targeted by COVID, not just the police, we're targeted by COVID, right? It's almost like COVID's racist, right? But yet African Americans are so untrusting of healthcare professionals and the vaccine. And he was trying to re-educate them. As a result of you guys being in college, if you have concerns about the COVID vaccine, do me a favor, read it. Information on your Facebook feed, information on the read that. We have to challenge the connotation and belief that we can't trust our doctors. And if you don't trust your doctor and it's a real reason, then get a new doctor, right? I'm not even going to sit back. I'm not really one to say only Black people should see Black doctors. No, no, no. I've seen a-hole doctors that are Black, white, any race. If you're not comfortable talking to them, get a new doctor, right? So again, if memory lapse are bugging you, make sure you're comfortable talking to your doctor, right? Now, I think we're going to finish it up with Kavan, right? Last sentence. Uh-oh. See, I keep hearing that chime leave. I hope that's not him leaving. Now you're still here. Kavan's iPad.
Something like getting more sleep, switching a medication, or a stress reduction program could help you get your memory back on track.
Exactly. Now I'll tell you, I think for most of you, based off your responses, it really is getting more sleep. I'm not going to say I get it. It's the weekend. You guys are college students. It's about staying up. But I'll tell you, if you're studying for an exam and you actually do put that work in, and if you know that's an exam tomorrow, a good night's sleep will help you. The other thing that will help you is the fact that Dr. Barnes allowed you to take the exam twice, and you could take it twice, right? That might help too. But getting more sleep will help. You'll be a lot more alert, be more able to display to me what the grade is. I wish I could sit back and do a blood sample and find out how smart you are and give you a grade based on how that microscope pulls out, but I can't. I have to assess your intelligence and your mastery of psychology as a result of what you do over a period of the 15 weeks in the exam. Right? All right, guys, thank you so much. I think I hit and got everybody participating today. I didn't have to blackmail you, sit back and say you have to read and remark you absent. Thank you for that. Just another reminder, I hear the chimes going away, y'all leaving, but make sure if you have not done the conceptualization video that you do. If you need any assistance, I know I went over it week 1 or week 2. That's what my office hours are for. That's what my office extension is for. Get that material and information you need, get that grade, and let's move on to the next level of whatever is going to be in your future at Cheyney University. All right, guys.